One silent evening, your phone lights up with a name you haven't seen in months, your best friend. The same person who once knew every shade of your laughter, every dream you whispered, every secret you buried deep. You stare at the screen longer than you should. A flood of memories rushes in, the nights you talked until dawn, the shared victories, the unspoken disappointments, the final harsh words that ended everything. You hesitate. Do you answer? Or do you let it ring out, quietly choosing pride over peace? That hesitation, that painful pause, is where most friendships die. Not with betrayal. Not with cruelty. But with silence. And that silence, more than anything, reveals how fragile human connection really is. We lose friends not because we stop caring, but because we don't know how to suffer disappointment with grace. We don't know how to control the fire of our emotions, the sting of our ego, the hunger for being right. We let anger become our armor, and pride our prison. But what if there was a different way? What if philosophy, ancient, simple, and strangely practical, held the key to healing not just our friendships, but the parts of ourselves that ruin them? That's where Stoicism enters the story. The forgotten wisdom of Stoicism. More than 2,000 years ago, men like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca walked through their own version of heartbreak, the loss of trust, betrayal by those they loved, disappointment in human behavior. Yet they didn't respond with vengeance, gossip, or self-pity. They practiced a radical kind of calm, a clarity of mind so rare it almost feels superhuman today. Stoicism isn't coldness. It isn't emotional detachment. It's emotional mastery. It's the art of choosing peace over reaction, understanding over assumption, forgiveness over fury. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength," he wasn't just giving advice for kings. He was offering a map for every one of us who's ever lost a friend, misunderstood someone, or let ego turn affection into ashes. In a world where friendships now dissolve over texts, subtweets, and rumors, Stoicism offers something astonishingly modern, a way to feel deeply without losing control. Why friendships break, and why it hurts so much. Friendship, at its best, is a mirror of the soul. We choose friends because they reflect something familiar in us, our humor, our dreams, our values. But that same mirror can crack the moment our expectations collide with reality. Your friend forgets to call. They change. They say something that stings. You start to feel replaced, ignored, misunderstood. And without realizing it, your heart becomes a courtroom, with you as the judge, the jury, and the executioner. We say, if they really cared, they wouldn't have done that. But Stoicism teaches that such thinking is flawed. Because what we're really saying is, if the world were perfect, I wouldn't have to grow. Marcus Aurelius once reflected, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly, but none of them can harm me. That sounds harsh, almost cynical, until you realize it's not an insult. It's acceptance. He wasn't saying, avoid people. He was saying, love them anyway. Friendships fall apart because we love only the version of people who agree with us, who never disappoint us, who never remind us that humans are flawed. But Stoicism calls us to something higher, to love the entire person, flaws and all, without letting their mistakes shake our peace. The Stoic path to enduring connection. Imagine a friendship built not on convenience or constant validation, but on virtue, honesty, patience, loyalty, forgiveness. A bond where both people can disagree without disrespect, correct each other without cruelty, and grow without drifting apart. That's not naive. That's Stoic. Epictetus said, "We suffer not from the things themselves, but from the opinions we hold about them." How many friendships would still be alive if we paused before reacting, if we learned to question our assumptions instead of defending them? The Stoics didn't suppress emotion, they transformed it. They turned anger into discipline. They turned sadness into reflection. They turned rejection into freedom. This isn't ancient moralizing, it's survival advice for the modern heart. In a world obsessed with quick judgments and emotional reactivity, Stoicism teaches us to be the calm friend, the understanding one, the bridge builder when others walk away. Why this matters now? We live in a time of abundance and loneliness. Thousands of social connections, but few deep ones. We scroll, compare, react, but rarely pause to reflect. Our friendships are breaking not because people have become crueler, but because we've become more fragile. We've forgotten how to endure discomfort, to forgive, to see beyond one bad moment. Stoicism can change that. It can teach you to love your friends without clinging, to forgive them without weakness, to rebuild bridges without losing your dignity. It can teach you how to be steady, even when they are not. Because true friendship isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. And in a world that constantly tells you to cut people off, Stoicism quietly whispers. Be patient. Understand. Rise above. The fragile nature of friendship. 1. The silent drift between hearts. It rarely begins with a betrayal. Most friendships don't explode, they quietly fade. Two people who once talked every day begin replying a little slower. One cancels plans. The other stops reaching out. A misunderstanding lingers unspoken. Soon, laughter becomes awkward small talk, and closeness turns into polite distance. What happened? It wasn't that anyone stopped caring. It was that both forgot how to care wisely. In every friendship lies an invisible tension, the pull between expectation and acceptance. Expectation says, you should make me feel valued. Acceptance says, I understand you are human. The problem is, most of us love from a place of expectation. We expect friends to think like us, prioritize us, and always understand what we mean, even when we don't say it. When they fall short, we take it personally. But the Stoics warned about this kind of emotional fragility. They taught that love without wisdom quickly turns into suffering. Epictetus once said, when someone offends you, remember, it is your judgment that has offended you. In other words, your pain often comes not from their action, but from your interpretation of it. If a friend forgets your birthday, does that mean they no longer care, or that life simply overwhelmed them? If they disagree with you, does that mean they are against you, or that they are still growing, just like you? Stoicism reminds us, don't rush to label pain as betrayal. Sometimes, it's just the sound of two humans being imperfect together. 2. Why friendships fade, unmet expectations and fragile egos. Friendship is the most beautiful form of voluntary love, but also the most easily wounded. Unlike family, friendship is chosen. There's no blood obligation to stay. So when things get hard, ego often steps in to protect pride rather than repair connection. The ego whispers. They should have apologized first. I won't text them until they text me. They don't deserve my loyalty after what they did. Pride disguises itself as strength, but it's really fear, fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, fear of being seen as weak. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire yet struggled with betrayal daily, wrote in Meditations. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. When a friend hurts you, the Stoic path isn't to match their silence or resentment. It's to remain noble, kind, and self-controlled, to protect your own character rather than punish theirs. It takes more strength to respond gently than to retaliate sharply. It takes more wisdom to forgive quietly than to cut someone off loudly. Most friendships collapse because no one wants to take the first step toward humility. Each person waits for the other to blink first. But as Seneca observed, to be angry is to punish yourself for the mistakes of another. The longer we wait, the deeper the silence grows, until it becomes unbearable. 3. The Stoic view of human imperfection. To a Stoic, disappointment in people is as irrational as disappointment in weather. You wouldn't curse the rain for falling or the sun for setting, so why curse human nature for being what it is? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily. When you wake, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to love, to be among others. He expected people to lie, boast, and fail him, not out of cynicism, but realism. That way, when they acted kindly, it was a bonus; when they failed, it wasn't a shock. Imagine approaching your friendships with that same mindset. You'd no longer see mistakes as personal attacks. You'd see them as proof that your friends are beautifully, painfully human. Epictetus taught that when you love someone, you must love them as mortal, temporary, fallible, transient. If you expect perfection, you will only ever love your imagination of them, not the person themselves. The Stoic way to keep friends is not to lower your standards of goodness, but to raise your capacity for understanding. 4. The anatomy of a falling out, a modern parable. Let me tell you a short story. Two friends, Ao and Kelechi, grew up together in the same Lagos neighborhood. From shared meals in secondary school to late-night dreams about their future, they were inseparable. Ao was calm and introverted, the kind of person who thought deeply before he spoke. Kelechi was ambitious, fiery, and proud, a born leader. Together, they balanced each other. Until one day, Ao started a business. Kelechi helped him in the early stages, offering ideas and contacts. But as the business grew, so did misunderstandings. Kelechi felt unappreciated, Ao felt accused. One small disagreement, about credit and ownership, turned into silence. Pride did the rest. Ao said to himself, if he valued me, he would reach out. Kelechi said, if he respected me, he would apologize. Weeks turned to months. They saw each other's posts online, each pretending not to care. But deep down, both missed the friendship, they just didn't know how to say it. Years later, Kelechi heard that Ao's mother had passed away. For a moment, his heart softened. He wanted to call. But his ego whispered, he didn't call you when your father died. So he didn't. That night, lying awake, Kelechi realized something terrible: pride had made him lonelier than any betrayal ever could. 5. The Stoic lesson in their story. Stoicism teaches that the greatest harm people do to us is not external, it's internal. We suffer because we let our emotions command our behavior. If Ao and Kelechi had both paused, even once, to reflect before reacting, the friendship might have survived. Epictetus said, when you are offended at someone's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger. That doesn't mean tolerating abuse or disrespect. Stoicism isn't submission, it's self-governance. It means knowing which battles are worth fighting and which are only feeding your ego. Imagine if Kelechi had practiced that. He might have said to himself, I feel disrespected, but is that a fact or a feeling? Am I seeking justice or validation? And Ao might have asked, is my silence preserving peace, or protecting my pride? Stoicism gives us the tools to ask such questions, to hold our emotions up to the light before letting them lead us astray. 6. Emotional reactivity, the root of ruin. Most friendships don't end because of big betrayals. They end because of small reactions that grew too loud. A sarcastic comment. A misinterpreted message. A delayed reply that feels like rejection. Modern friendships live in the instant world of texts and social media, where tone disappears and ego fills in the blanks. A single misunderstanding can spiral into resentment before anyone even speaks. Seneca warned against this exact tendency in his letter on anger. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. To a Stoic, the pause before reaction is sacred. It's the moment you choose whether to be controlled by your feelings or to control them. When your friend says something that hurts, you can lash out, or you can breathe, reflect, and ask, is this worth losing them over? That one pause, that single breath, has saved more relationships than any apology ever could. 7. The strength in letting go of control. Another reason friendships break is that we try to control what's beyond our power. We want our friends to love us the way we love them, to value us equally, to never change, to never leave. But Stoicism divides life into two categories. What we can control, our thoughts, reactions, and actions. What we cannot control, everything else, including the hearts of others. When you understand that distinction, freedom begins. You stop demanding permanence from people who are meant to teach you impermanence. You stop resenting friends who grow apart, realizing that every bond has its natural season. You stop chasing validation and start embodying virtue, honesty, patience, composure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." That's not apathy, it's maturity. It means valuing people deeply but not desperately. It means being grateful when friendship flows and graceful when it fades. 8. Acceptance, the Stoic foundation of peaceful friendship. Acceptance doesn't mean surrender. It means choosing peace over pain. When you accept people as they are, not as you want them to be, you free yourself from endless disappointment. The Stoic doesn't say, "My friend must never fail me." He says, "When my friend fails me, I will practice patience." Acceptance makes you gentle. It makes you wise. It turns bitterness into empathy. And when you start living that way, something magical happens. Even the broken friendships in your life begin to heal, maybe not through reunion, but through understanding. You stop blaming. You start seeing. You stop needing closure. You start becoming it. 9. Summary, fragility and strength. Friendship is fragile, but so are we. Yet fragility isn't weakness. It's proof that we care. The Stoic goal isn't to stop caring, but to care intelligently. To love without clinging. To forgive without losing self-respect. To be present without being possessive. When you practice Stoicism, you learn to be the friend who listens more than accuses, who endures more than reacts, who values peace over pride. Because at the heart of every strong friendship lies this silent Stoic truth. We can't control how others treat us, only how nobly we respond. The Stoic way of seeing people. 1. Seeing beyond the surface. To save a friendship, even a broken one, you must first learn to see people correctly. That may sound simple, but it's one of the hardest things in life. We don't really see our friends, we see our versions of them, a collage of our expectations, memories, and assumptions. We remember their best moments when we're happy and their worst moments when we're hurt. The Stoics warned against this partial seeing, because it blinds us to the truth of human nature. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, "When you are offended by someone's faults, turn at once to yourself and reflect on your own failings." It's not self-blame, it's perspective. When you remember your own flaws, your anger softens. When you see your friend as a fellow human, stumbling through the same chaos of emotions and fears as you, compassion replaces judgment. That's the Stoic way, to see others not as enemies or disappointments, but as travelers on the same difficult road. 2. The universe within each person. To the Stoics, every human being is part of a vast, interconnected whole, a living system of reason, nature, and fate. The Greek word they used was sympathia, the idea that everything is bound together by invisible threads. Imagine holding one corner of a spider's web. When you pluck a single strand, the entire web trembles. That's sympathia. Your anger, your kindness, your forgiveness, they ripple outward into the lives of others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What injures the hive, injures the bee." When you harm another, through harsh words, revenge, or silent resentment, you harm yourself. When you forgive, you heal not only them but the parts of you still clinging to pain. In friendship, sympathia means recognizing that you and your friend are not two separate entities competing for validation or justice. You are two parts of the same fabric, both learning, failing, and becoming. So when your friend disappoints you, the Stoic question isn't, "How could they do this to me?" but, "What weakness or pain in them might have led to this?" Seeing this way doesn't excuse their behavior. It explains it. An explanation softens the heart faster than accusation ever can. 3. Detachment without coldness. One of the biggest misconceptions about Stoicism is that it asks us to detach from people, to be indifferent, emotionally distant, or unfeeling. But that's not Stoicism. That's escapism. True Stoic detachment isn't about feeling less, it's about feeling wisely. Seneca wrote, "We are not born for ourselves alone." The Stoic loves deeply, but doesn't cling. They care sincerely, but don't depend on others for peace. They give their heart freely, but not their control. This balance, of love and independence, is what saves friendships from collapsing under the weight of need. When you detach from needing constant validation, you start enjoying the friendship for what it truly is, a voluntary exchange of goodwill, not a transaction of emotional comfort. You stop saying, "Why didn't they text me first?" and start saying, "I'll reach out because I care, not because I need attention." You stop thinking, "They owe me loyalty," and start thinking, "I'll practice loyalty because it's who I am." Detachment, then, is not coldness, it's self-possession. It's refusing to let external behavior dictate your internal peace. 4. How to practice Stoic seeing. Let's turn this from theory to practice. Here are a few Stoic habits that transform how you see people, and therefore, how you love them. A. Pause before judgment. When someone annoys you, pause before reacting. Ask, "Do I truly know why they acted this way?" Maybe they're tired, scared, grieving, or distracted. The Stoic knows that most cruelty is confusion in disguise. B. Replace blame with inquiry. Instead of saying, "They're selfish," try, "What fear might make them behave this way?" It doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps you respond from understanding, not ego. C. Remember universal flaws. Every morning, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Today I shall meet people who are selfish, ungrateful, deceitful, but I will not let that disturb me." Do the same. Expect imperfection, and you'll stop being shocked by it. D. View yourself as a mirror. When someone's actions irritate you, they often reflect something within you, an insecurity, an unmet need, a fear. Instead of asking, "Why are they like that?" ask, "Why does this bother me so much?" Self-awareness cools the fire of frustration. 5. The friend as a mirror of virtue. To the Stoics, a true friend is not merely someone who makes you feel good, but someone who helps you become good. Seneca once wrote to his friend Lucilius, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." Friendship, then, is not entertainment. It's edification. Your closest friends should challenge your pettiness, sharpen your character, and reflect back the kind of strength you aspire to live by. When you start seeing friendship through that lens, your relationships deepen. You stop expecting perfection and start seeking growth. You learn to appreciate honesty over comfort, correction over flattery, presence over performance. The Stoic sees friendship as a sacred exchange, not of gifts or gossip, but of virtue. 6. Compassion through discipline. To truly embody Stoic love, you must discipline your heart. Compassion isn't a feeling, it's a choice repeated through difficulty. Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." Compassion begins where judgment ends. But it doesn't mean enabling harmful behavior. The Stoic friend is kind, not naive, forgiving, not foolish. They know that compassion without boundaries is self-destruction. To practice Stoic compassion. Forgive in your heart, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Set gentle boundaries, not from anger, but from self-respect. Respond to pain with patience, because reacting with fury only multiplies suffering. The Stoic doesn't suppress pain, they transform it into understanding. They ask, "How can I turn this hurt into wisdom?" That's how broken friendships begin to heal, not always through reunion, but through revelation. 7. Applying sympathia in everyday friendship. Sympathia is one of the most beautiful Stoic ideas, and one of the most healing. It tells you that your life is interwoven with every other life. That no action, word, or thought exists in isolation. When you forgive your friend, you're not just healing the bond, you're contributing to the harmony of the world itself. When you choose to understand rather than accuse, you're sending ripples of reason through a culture addicted to outrage. Marcus Aurelius saw humanity as a single body, each person a cell in that living organism. He wrote, "We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes. To obstruct one another is against nature. So when you gossip, you poison the organism. When you forgive, you purify it." That's what makes Stoicism radical. It links morality to the cosmic order. How you treat your friend is how you treat the universe. In practical terms, sympathia means, when your friend fails, you don't say, "They're beneath me." You say, "I could have failed too." When they succeed, you don't envy. You celebrate, because their growth uplifts the whole. When they leave, you don't curse fate. You bow to it, knowing everything has its season. 8. How Stoic seeing heals broken friendships. Let's return to our earlier story, Ao and Kalechi. Years after their falling out, imagine Ao reading Meditations. He pauses at this line. If someone does wrong, the harm lies in their own character, not in yours. He realizes, Kalechi's pride doesn't define him, his response does. So he sends a simple message. "I've missed our conversations. I hope you're doing well. No grudges here." He expects nothing in return, that's detachment. But that message breaks the ice that pride built. Kalechi replies days later, quietly. "I've missed you too, my brother." No dramatic apology, no perfect closure. Just two human beings choosing peace over pain. That's Stoicism in action, healing without demanding, forgiving without expecting, and loving without losing dignity. 9. The Stoic vision of human connection. The Stoic vision of friendship is bigger than emotion, it's spiritual. It sees love not as a bargain but as a duty to live harmoniously with others. To the Stoics, to be human is to be social. We are born for cooperation, not competition. To hate is to go against our nature, to forgive is to align with it. Marcus Aurelius said, "The mind of one who loves others is serene and joyful." When you see every person, friend or foe, as part of the same divine order, bitterness becomes absurd. You can still set boundaries, you can still walk away when necessary, but you do so without hate. You release with gratitude, not resentment. And that's how Stoicism transforms friendship from fragile emotion into unshakable understanding. 10. Summary, the Stoic way of seeing. To see others clearly is to free yourself from endless disappointment. When you practice sympathia, compassion, and detachment, you realize people are not problems to fix but souls to understand. Anger is temporary, understanding is eternal. The truest power in friendship lies in choosing peace over pride, reason over reaction. The Stoic way of seeing doesn't just save friendships, it elevates them. It turns every misunderstanding into a chance for wisdom, every pain into an opportunity for virtue. And most importantly, it reminds you that love, real, resilient love, is not an emotion you feel, but a discipline you practice.